Well, good evening everybody out there in YouTube. Welcome to the Ol'skool Reefer channel. This is Sparky Mike. Wanted to give an update to my 6 best tips to keep the pH up on a reef tank. At least in my experience and with newer equipment and things they've come out with over the years. And this is for a system in which you use a calcium reactor and a refugium system, so to speak. So this is part of a 300 and soon to be 50-gallon system. Main tanks upstairs, of course. So here is my 6 best tips for keeping your pH up in order of cost and probably bang for buck. Let me come over here to get my little list. Number 1, I think the best thing you can do is keep the windows open in your house. Lots of fresh air inside your house. And your tanks well aerated. Whatever it takes to aerate the water. Even almost to the point of microfine bubbles. Whether it be freshwater tanks, saltwater tanks, it doesn't matter. That's been a thing for 35 years since I ever started keeping fish. So aerate fresh air into your house, however you have to get it, whether it's modified or whatever. This is a basement sump system, so I have to get lots of fresh air into the basement. Number 2, if you can, bring in lines from outside your house to the exterior of your house and run vinyl hose, whatever it takes, to get fresh air to air pumps. So you're getting fresh outside air driving into air pumps, distributing into your system. Fresh outside air, preferably filtered, even if it's a cotton ball in the end of the hose or the fitting, whatever it takes. Outside air lines brought into your skimmer. Also the same deal. I don't know if you can see it, but there's one up in here, and I feed my skimmer with fresh outside air. And yes, I need to dump it and probably clean it. So I also run ozone to help scrub the water even further. Therefore I run carbon stink splash cap on my protein skimmer. So we'll go on to the next, number 3. Number 3, your best bet is to help your pH low swings during your night cycle. Your pH will drop during the night when your refugium is basically taking over. So you run your refugium opposite light cycles of your tank and buy a really good light. My best suggestion is probably a Kessel 380 or any type of kick-ass horticultural light, basically for growing, not for fish keeping. And that will grow mass amounts of catamorpha. They're also able to grow mangroves like crazy. Future expansion of a mangrove and catamorpha tank to also help starve nitrates and phosphates out of my system. But that's a future video. So, good lighting over your refugium will keep the pH up at night, which will keep it from swinging so low in the morning, maintaining a higher pH at that point in the morning, allowing the tank to take over at that point and raise the pH a little further during the tank's day cycle. Basically help keeping your pH up. Of course, I run a calcium reactor, and if you have a good stable system with a good pyrolytic pump, that'll keep it from driving your pH down and not overdosing basically too much effluent. That's just a basic on that one. So next on the list, bang for the buck, would have to be a Kalkwasser stirrer or some kind of Kalkwasser mixer. Added in line with an ATO system of some sort. Just simply putting a pump in there with a Kalkwasser. The Kalkwasser tends to chew up pumps like crazy, so It's best to have a stirrer or a mixer of some sort, so you're not chewing up your ATO pumps. Dosing effluent below water level. When you're dosing it to your aquarium or wherever you're dosing it, make sure it's below water level so you don't create calcification on the outlet, creating stalactites, stalagmites, and plugging up your system. There's another tip. Oh, bang for the buck. Number 5 would have to be on my list for my system. And believe me, this is all my opinion and my experience and trial and error. And if it wasn't for a good apex system, you of course would know most of this. So, bang for the buck would have to be a CO2 scrubber. This one here is a big giant one, Big Blue, and I cycle it between day and night. Sometimes when I use it, pH usually drives down when the tank is shutting off before the refugium kicks up, and after the refugium light's about to shut off and the tank light comes back on, the pH will drop, and of course I'll cycle this a little bit with the valves I have up here, being able to pull in inside or outside air, so on and so forth. And it's also connected to my outside line. Best to scrub outside air versus inside air because it has less CO2. Second of all, if you keep a little bit of water in the bottom of your scrubber, when you shut this down and not use it, the purple pellets can recharge to a certain point. So you're able to reuse these pellets, recycle these pellets, and continue using this media for 10 times longer than what most people do when it turns purple and they throw it away. Another tip for you. Bang for the buck, that would have to be probably number 5 on my list. Number 6 on my list would have to be a dosing system. Now, of course, this is for a calcium reactor system that I have, and I don't use 2 or 3 part dosing, blah blah blah. I use a calcium reactor to take care of it. Bottles of CO2. The effluent coming back in is rather low, so that can affect your pH. So this is strictly for last resort, ultimately. And I have it triggered to come on at like 7.99, so I don't use a whole lot of it, and I try not to dose a whole lot of it. But you can use reef buffer if your alkalinity is a little low, and I use marine buffer when my alkalinity is just fine. Alkalinity based on remag and how much you use for your system, what your effluent drip rate is, blah blah blah. So got to be careful. I use far more marine buffer than I do reef buffer, and this is a last resort dosing to keep your pH up. Number 6 on my list. There's my list of the top 6 best ways to keep your pH up in a reef tank or reef system. Again, I have room for expansion, some reef mud over there, so future projects coming. So everybody have a great night. Subscribe if you haven't. Thumbs up. Take care. Happy New Year.